Greetings, everyone. This is Eric Stewart from Fishing Fanatics. Today, I got an awesome guest, Luther Cifers, who is largely a self-made entrepreneur in the outdoors industry, co-founding companies like YakAttack, Bonafide Kayaks, and MagPump. So, how you doing, Luther?
I'm good. Eric, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great, man. It's great to have you here. And, I interview a lot of professional bass fishermen on this podcast, but it's awesome to have a company that's kind of directly related to bass fishing with YakAttack. And I always like asking those professional bass fishing, I ask you kind of the same question. How did you get into the outdoors industry as like a whole, like starting out? Maybe you went camping with like your family and all that stuff, but what's your story about how you got into this industry?
Yeah, when I was a kid, I used to fish a lot with my grandfather and actually spent a lot of time with my grandparents. They lived like a mile from us. So we were always going up there and hanging out with them. And my favorite times to go up there when we went to the river, and it was like, usually like night crawlers and, bottom rigs for catfish or something like that. But, I think those first moments fishing stick with you, and as I got older, the fishing got a little more, the spectrum of fishing got a little broader and a little more sophisticated. But, I had really developed an affinity for like saltwater fishing, surf fishing, pier fishing, that kind of stuff. And we went on a surf fishing trip, and a friend of mine bought a kayak along with him to take baits out for shark fishing from the beach. And we spent a little bit of time in that boat just kind of paddling around. Didn't actually fish out of it that trip, but got back home and then he started kayak fishing. His name's Bob Fulgham. And Bob started kayak fishing, and then, we were really good friends. So he was always kind of, mastering different hobbies. So, he's always trying to pull me into them, and I always said no. I was just really busy. But the fishing thing was really interesting because I like to fish anyway. And had a John boat for a little while, but anyway, I was just really intrigued by the kayak fishing thing. So found a good deal on a used Hobie Outback, and the rest, as they say, is history.
That's it, man. That's a cool little story there, because I know a bunch of my buddies are into shark fishing now, and it's always, when I was growing up, it was always, kayak, the bait, all the way out to basically as far as you possibly can. I'm not a shark fisherman. I'm not going to try to be a shark fisherman, but they know like the spots to go. And how a lot of the times the guy bought like a $3,000 drone, right, and drives it out there, which is insane.
Yeah, that's
insane. It is cool. The saltwater kayak fishing game, I give those people a lot of credit, because I just saw a video, I don't know if you saw this on Facebook, of a shark actually biting a kayak, which was kind of terrifying. But
yeah, I did. Yeah, that's got to be a moment there. I've seen big sharks while I was out, but I've never had one bump a boat.
Yeah, that's got to be terrifying. But those people love it, and just after the hunt. So you basically 3 companies here: YakAttack, Bonafide Fishing, and then MagPump. Which one started first?
YakAttack. So I had a consulting company at the time called Cifers Solutions, and I was basically a hired gun that did design work for a lot of different companies. Everything from like consumer goods, similar, not fishing related, but like the kind of products we do now, to more industrial stuff, small machines or fixtures or whatever. But in 2009 actually 2008 is when I got that kayak. And then we were doing a lot of night fishing under bridge lights, and made this kind of homemade light for just where we were. You're fishing under the bridge, and the bridge lights kind of put a shadow in the water, but the current and sometimes the fish would pull you out into the light line. And sometimes about the time a power boat was zipping down the bridge to get to their spot. So we realized that was really dangerous. So Bob and I actually Bob made the first one, but basically glued a dive light into the end of a PVC pipe. And, Bob and I both have a design background, and we're also a little competitive. So we just kind of kept one-upping, and kind of, at the time there was no intent of making it a product, but just kind of making it better and better. And then, very soon the guys at the boat ramp were like, hey, can you make me one of those? And that's kind of how it started. And at the time, I mean, it was only intended to be a hobby business, but after the first year, it was evident that there was a existing and growing, opportunity. I've always wanted to have a, product-based manufacturing business. Didn't really think I would ever achieve that other than maybe working in one. But, so yeah, but Bob, he had a really good job. He was really busy. So he didn't want to go down that, working for 3 or 4 years without getting paid road. So I just kind of, knuckled up and kind of tapered my consulting workload down enough for YakAttack to pour as much of my time as I could into YakAttack. But YakAttack wasn't paying bills at the time, so I had to kind of keep both going. And then, around I think it was 2013, 4 years later is when I started taking a salary and I was able to go full-time with YakAttack. And then in 2016, YakAttack had started, had grown to the point that it was making some money. And, I'm a keep all the chips on the table kind of guy. I still live about the same lifestyle that I did, 15 years ago, other than a few more toys maybe, but really very similar. So I just kind of pushed it all into the Bonafide pot and then we started Bonafide and spent most of, I guess it was 2017. I might be a year off, but I think we spent most of 2017 setting up the plant, developing the boats, get everything ready. And then, we started shipping the beginning of 2018. And okay, so actually no, Bonafide was the third one. And then rewind somewhere around 2014, actually a rep called me and he sent me a link to a speed loader for AR-15. And he was like, and it was just like a flat board that's like cut in a shape. He was like, don't you have the equipment to make this? And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, people are paying like $300 a piece for these. And I was like, isn't that somebody else's design? It's like, it's not our MO, it's just like knocking stuff up. He was like, yeah, but, so I said, look, what I'm hearing is that there's a good market for a speed loader for AR-15. And he was like, absolutely. And, we used to work in automotive with vibratory bowl feeders. And with those things, they feed little parts. They just go around and they come out and it orients the parts and they come out the correct orientation. So just actually literally on the kitchen table with a kitchen knife and some cardboard, kind of designed the gate. With vibratory bowl feeders, you use the geometry of the part to sort and orient. So it was obvious. I mean, AR-15 round, it's big on one end, it's small on the other end. So this end will swing through a slide and this one won't, you know what I mean? So we knew we could get them to fall projectile down and made a black box prototype, took it out to SHOT Show. I was only at SHOT Show as a visitor. My vendor, Tech Type, that we still get our Carbon Pro lights from, they had a booth and Scott always invited me out there to hang out and see what was going on. And I said, hey, can I bring this little prototype out there and set it on your table? He was like, sure. And man, that show, we literally wore that thing out. So that was about 2014, I think, that we started MagPump. And then, MagPump got to the point, it got regulated by the State Department. So it's subject to ITAR, which makes it really hard to sell internationally. And, most of the market there is police and military. So it's, you're really cutting out a lot of your customer base when you can't, really export. So anyway, a guy who was actually a business consultant of mine, he's an entrepreneur in the outdoor industry as well. He ended up buying it from us and they've done great with it, man. They've continued to grow it. They've got 9mm and I think AR-10 and AK-47 and, a bunch of other stuff now. And then in 2019, around 2018, yeah, so actually Bonafide, it was 2016 we set up the plant. 2017 we launched. 2019, I was just spread too thin. I had, I was living in South Carolina. YakAttack was being run by a management team that I installed here. And I was just spread too thin to take care of any of it very well. So I ended up finding a merge partner in Big Adventures out of the makers of Native Watercraft and Liquid Logic and some other brands. And we ended up merging fall of 2019, that business. And then I sold out completely, I guess it was spring of 21. I just wanted to kind of, number one, simplify my life, and number two, really focus on YakAttack. By that time, we had gotten YakAttack really on rails again, kind of headed down a growth road. So it felt like I could serve one business better than trying to continue to serve two. So, but I still stay in touch with those guys and rooting for them. And they've done a great job. They brought in the plant manager that we had at our plant in Greenville. And man, he's just an awesome guy, and they got an awesome team over there. And, so I'm always rooting for him from the sidelines.
Business owners and marketing professionals in the Philly area, Bad Rhino takes the overwhelm out of digital marketing. With tailored digital marketing services, from social media management to SEO and PPC advertising, our expert team navigates the complexities of the digital ad space for your business. Let Bad Rhino lead you to success. Visit badrhinoinc.com and let's take your business to new heights. Bad Rhino, we do digital marketing, so you don't have to.
You know what's crazy about this too? And I appreciate you walking through the entire story, because I was super curious about how that entire thing unfolded. But it all started out in a garage in 2009 with an idea and a light.
And around $1,200.
Yeah, for around $1,200. So in today's world, basically nothing. But I mean,
in those days, for trying to start a business, it was nothing. Believe me. There were moments when it was like, okay, how much do I have left on this credit card, because we need inventory and that kind of stuff. And it was sketchy for a while. I mean, we really, and if it wasn't for managing cash really tightly and living modestly at home, you probably never would have really got off the ground.
And then now looking at YakAttack, I actually did a deep dive in the website, looking at all the different stuff you guys have. You got the lights, you got the kayak carts, you got the crates, the camera mounts, the depth finder mounts, the rod holders. You got all these products now. So, like, how does that, you just keep growing it, or?
Yeah, man. I mean, at first it was like, I remember my 5-year goal was to be a recognized player in visibility products for kayaks. And I think by the 5th year, we had most of the market share. And most of the accessories. At that point in time, we were partnered with another brand for things like rod holders and fish finder mounts and things like that. But around when I started Bonafide, that set some different things that I won't get into motion. And the end result of that was we didn't have a supply of product anymore. So that's when we developed the lock and load system and our rod holders and all that stuff. And it's been really fun. I mean, for most of the time that YakAttack's existed, for many years it was just me designing. And then for most of the years we had one full-time designer, and then we would use a contractor or two that, like the guy that I started MagPump with, he does work for us still. But in the last year, we've added 3 more full-time designers. So we've got some really cool stuff in the hopper now, but it's a playground. I mean, the industry is evolving, it's growing. There's still in the beginning, we were essentially replacing DIY solutions with more engineered and, functional solutions, and that had longevity and that were kind of made for the purpose. But as the sport has evolved, the way that people fish out of kayaks has evolved. It's just continuously generating new opportunities. But the other thing we realize is that, a lot of the products and really our approach to solving problems is relevant to more than just kayak fishing. So now we've got some mounts for John boats, for the T-slots on John boats. I just, for my birthday was Monday, and for my birthday, kind of makes the business with pleasure, but I picked up 2, I don't know if you've seen these Sea-Doo Fish Pro jet skis.
Oh, yeah.
So that thing's in a new playground. I'm having all kinds of fun thinking about what we're going to do with those. But it's just a ton of opportunity in this space. And customers, when we put something out, customers, it's really cool. They want it to succeed, and it's up to us to not let them down, but we get the benefit of the doubt, and we get, so we know that if we keep doing things and meeting the same expectations, the customers are there to support us. And that kind of, one hand feeds the other, we can continue to innovate as long as we're continuing to sell the stuff that we innovated yesterday. So it's a cool ride.
It's very true. And, your customers will let you know if you're doing a good job by buying more products, right? Or following your social media and engaging with your social media accounts. But it is cool to see when I'm looking at your page, I'm just seeing a lot of quality work, which like even the crates on the back of it, I know like around me, Wawa's real prevalent. And, I see buddies strap a Wawa crate to the back of their kayak. But your crates totally take it above and beyond that. I mean, it's some high quality stuff there. And I know a big thing that you guys focus on is U.S. manufacturing and U.S. made. So tell me about what that means to you to be manufactured in the U.S.
Yeah, I mean, really, that's a great question, because that's kind of like the seed that started it all. Kind of lives in that question. So first up, I was homeschooled. And I was homeschooled back when that was a liability. These days, it's almost an asset. I mean, the statistics are very much leaning in favor of homeschooling. In terms of educational statistics and success and career success. But at the time, that wasn't the case. And not only that, I was just one of these kids that around 17, 18 years old decided to take the wrong fork in the road and just be stupid for a few years, and ended up not completing homeschool. Ended up getting a job in manufacturing, actually 2 doors down from where I'm sitting right now. And I remember the guy he told me, you scored higher on the mechanical comprehension test than anybody I've ever tested. And I was like, great. He was like, interview was great. I was like, okay. And I was waiting for him to be like, start Monday. And he said, but I can't hire you. And I said, why? He said, because we require a high school diploma or GED. I said, okay, how do I do that? And he put me in touch with HR, and I went down and I got my GED. So, take a snapshot of that. Like, that's where my career started. And I knew nothing about anything. I mean, I'd never been farther west than Tennessee once when I was a little kid, never traveled, didn't know anything about the world, didn't know anything about manufacturing, and I, working in a manufacturing plant got me all of that. It got me mentorship. There's some people that, what I did have is I had a good work ethic. I had a good work ethic, and I had a good, sense of integrity. And there were some, prominent people in that business that took an interest in developing me. And, I reciprocated by working harder than anybody around me for many, many years. But that environment, I mean, in a vertically integrated manufacturing company, you have product development, you have tooling, you have a machine shop, you have, manufacturing, you have shipping, you have purchasing, you have sourcing, you have finance, you have human resources, you have marketing, like you have everything in one building. And that's an ecosystem. That's an ecosystem of opportunity for people to find their place. And, my friend that I started MagPump with, his name is Kenny Green. Kenny likes to say that manufacturing companies are good for the neighborhood. And that was why I started it, because so my last stint at Carbone was to help them shut that plant down and move it to, some of it went to Mexico, some of it went to India, some of it went to Europe. But, it got shut down, and at that time in the I guess early 2000s, there was a lot of that, plants just shutting down and shipping overseas. And, I realized that being a nation of consumers without being producers, and that's where we were trended at the time, doesn't really necessarily work very well. So, it's kind of like I took everything that I learned from the automotive industry, both what to do and what not to do. And, those were the kind of the chips on my shoulder, when I started YakAttack, even how we treat customers. I mean, it was routine for us to lie to our customers in automotive because there's a culture. It's kind of hard to explain. It'd take more time than we have here, but the customers are vicious with their requirements. So you don't ever want them to really know the truth, and that's just, gosh, man, you work in that environment for a while and you get out of it and you're like, whoa, that was wrong. That's not how you're supposed to treat people. So YakAttack was like an opportunity to, take the things that I had learned about manufacturing and try to do it and create my own little ecosystem that's good for the neighborhood, but also an opportunity to, entrepreneurship is an exercise in cause and effect. You do something and you get a result, and I wanted to see what happens if you try to do things the right way. Why did we do things like that? Why were we dishonest with our customers? Many times when we had some of these conversations, I'm like, this is a human being sitting here. We could probably reason with him if we try. But we're setting this stage of like this antagonistic relationship that, it's just unhealthy. So like in the very beginning, I'll never forget, like in one of our first units that we shipped out, the guy got, because we were doing this in Bob's basement next to his lawnmower. I mean, so the guy was like, there's grease on my flag. So we're like, uh-oh, so we gave it, at the time we had like American flag, a Jolly Roger, and a Diver Down flag. So we put him and an orange flag. So we put him a new orange flag, one of each one of the other flags, a couple of decals, and a note apologizing, and sent it to him. Well, he went out and told everybody. Back then it was before Facebook, it was the forums, before, social media, or I guess that was the primitive version of social media. But anyway, he went out on the forums and told the world that, we had taken great care of him, and we got a flood of orders. And then we had another guy he had leaned his dizzy pole against the wall of his garage, and it fell down and hit the concrete. When it did, the top broke off. And there's no way to repair it because it was glued in. The light was glued into the tube. So he was like, hey, I just want to know how I can repair this. It's totally my fault. And we were like, well, we'll send you a new one. And he was like, no, you don't understand. This is my fault. I was like, no, we understand. We reserve the right to, exercise excellent customer service. So we're going to send you a new one. And and at the time, it was like, we just wanted, and Bob and I both, like, we wanted to do things opposite of automotive, but then we started to realize that, holy cow, I remember Bob telling me about 6 months in, he was like, we need another quality problem, because every time we have one of those, we get a lot of orders, because the people would tell about how well we took care of them. So, we really learned something there, that not only is it the right thing to do for, just to be a good human, but it's also good for business to treat people right, to take a more long-term view and not look at everything as the next transaction, So it's all of that, but specifically making it in the USA was about creating that ecosystem of opportunity. And I tell you, if you look out on our floor here at YakAttack, if I had to say there was a box I ever wanted to check in my career, it was to help at least one person go from a future with, very foggy glimpses of opportunity to a clear path, industrious, well-paid, good career, and to be able to do that in this ecosystem. And we have several of those cases now. I'm talking about, managers in this business that, could go be really competent managers anywhere because of, the opportunities they've had here. And in many cases, people who started at the very, very lowest tier.
And that's an awesome story, because you can really relate to the people that are working on the line, because you've been there and you know what it's like, and
they're my favorite people to work with. They're my favorite people to work with. I actually do not enjoy managing managers at all, even the ones I help create. Like it's just not me. What I really, really enjoy is getting out there working with somebody who's hungry, who's where I used to be, because I understand where they are. I understand the path in front of them. When people get to be managers, I'm not a great manager. So they're already like more competent than I am a lot of the time. So I'm not necessarily adding a lot of value there. But recently with the bar car launch, I spent a lot of time on the floor with the team, the hourly team, and just kind of coaching and training them and setting that lineup. And I'm going to tell you, those are the most fun I've had in the last couple of years working. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, that's awesome. I've actually worked in a manufacturing plant for direct mail, and it's funny to see, like, because a lot of the times upper management won't come out to the floor. They'll send someone else to go out to the floor, right? And it'll be like they kind of sit in their little cubby hole, and whether they're talking to clients or trying to find that next deal, but they'll never really stray out of it. They just kind of punch in, go to their desk, find the next deal, and leave. Don't talk to anyone. Don't bother me. I'm busy. It's cool to see that your culture is completely different, where you'll actually take the time to go out to the floor, talk to people, and make real relationships. Now, real connections.
Yeah, I wish I could do more of it. And I think that's probably a trajectory here. Is I would really like to be in more of a technical and creative role. You know, the business has gotten to the point that that gets a pretty good sized business now, and it's just, to me, it's probably outpacing my natural gifts. But also, I'm spending so much time on, you know, the business management administration side that I can't do. I can't develop a lot of these opportunities that I see, and that's why, like, that's what I love. So I'm trying to figure out. I think, you know, it's a matter of time before we're able to get some kind of a management system in place that allows me to do that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's great. I appreciate you sitting down with me, talking to the story, talking about, you know, your company YakAttack and what you guys got going on there. And I just want to give you the opportunity here to shout out your website, any social media channels where people can check you out too, and where people can go to find your products.
Sure, yeah. YakAttack.us is our website. I think YakAttack.com goes there too. We started with YakAttack.us many years ago. We've stuck with it, but yeah, YakAttack.us, and then, you know, we're on Facebook, Instagram. I think Wade's even made us a TikTok channel. I'm not sure. I don't TikTok, but yeah, we're out there in kind of all those spaces.
Awesome,
and really appreciate the opportunity here, Eric. It's nice to sit down with you.
Yeah, it was nice. Thanks for answering my cold DM on Facebook.
Okay, buddy. You're welcome.
Appreciate it. You have a good one, man.
You too. Take care.
You just listened to the Fishing Fanatics podcast with your host, Eric Stewart. Feel free to check out our other podcasts and our other interviews on our channel on Spotify, YouTube, and much more. Check out our Instagram page, TikTok, and Facebook as well.